like a strong man, runs its course with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuit to the end of them. And nothing is hid from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The decrees of the Lord are sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, sweeter also than honey and droppings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. Its keeping from them is great reward. But who can direct their errors? Clear me from hidden faults. Keep back your servant from the insolent. Do not let them have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgressions. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Amen. We are at the third Sunday of Lent, and joyously the days are lengthening. Spring is coming, and I liked all of the texts this week, but I found myself going back to Psalm 19 over and over. On first of the week, on Monday in my disciplines, I read a devotional by Bill Dockery, and it just hit me. And I can't do anything else but read it to you because it's just so good. This is what he writes. It's on Psalm 19. One evening, a few years ago, I took my children to a remote farm, away from the noise and lights of Knoxville. A farmer had created a maze in one of the cornfields and was charging kids for the fun of getting lost in it. The youngsters quickly disappeared into the raspy rows of corn stalks. I stepped away to a pasture where the cars were parked. The faint glow of twilight outlined the horizon. A thin husk of moon hung in the sky, punctuated by the brightness of the evening star. Suddenly, as I gazed, the blue-black sky gained depth, and I sensed the whirling of planets and moon through space, speeding me on unimaginable paths. Terror gripped me. Like a kid on a runaway merry-go-round, I felt I might be flung into that sky. Instinctively, I wanted to flatten myself against the earth to keep from being hurled into the void. I knew immediately that I was in the presence of the holy. I became aware of my true place in the world, that overwhelming awe tinged with terror. That is what the psalmist celebrates in the first verse of Psalm 19. How clearly the sky reveals the glory, God's glory. Even without a dog, at least 5 times a week, I go for a walk in Tower Grove Park. Now, this isn't so noble. I know that if I don't walk, my back begins to hurt. And so I discipline to walk myself to walk for a half an hour. Some walks are quite ordinary. I try to go at a fast clip. Sometimes I alter where I go in my eastern half of Tower Grove Park. But I always try to go. I really missed it last night when I didn't get to go. I was working too hard and I got home too late. but I love to go. I don't always have a sense of God's presence, but I always find myself thinking about God there. And on Wednesday this week, I went looking for God. Wednesday, it was bitterly cold. The weather reporter said that we'd have 1 or 2 inches of snow, and I headed out early in the morning at a brisk clip. Because some ice had melted and some hadn't, I had to attend to my feet more than I would have liked to, looking down to be sure that I didn't stumble or slip or fall. It was still an eerie beauty in the park. Some would say stark, but I find it at the winter's end still somehow incredibly beautiful. Whites and grays, hints of blue and black, variations of those colors in abundance, squirrels, birds occasionally. There was only one other runner that I saw, one other person that I saw in the park on Wednesday morning. Otherwise, it appeared to me that I was alone, surrounded by the city. And as I walked, I looked for the geese and the ducks that gathered in abundance by the fountain. I marveled that in the midst of this treacherous winter February weather, now March, it's gotten a little better, but it was really cold this week. I marveled at how they survived. There's a black duck and a gray duck, and I think they're a couple, and I always look for them because he's big and she bustles about and quacks and wants to get out of it. You know, if you get too close, she really makes a big deal of it. So I looked for them. There were few moving around at that early morning hour. It was probably about 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was bitter. And I looked and waited and wondered, cold. Returning home, I sat down to pray, where I always pray, at my dining room table, lighting a candle in a snowman so I can see the glimpse of the candlelight through the snowman, and looking out my kitchen window. I can see an enormous tree next door where I've spotted raccoons on occasion. And looking over in the window, I noticed the orchid that was given to me in 2011 by my neighbor, Alan, right after her death. I have been watching it for weeks. Buds have appeared, I have talked to it and watered it and waited for the buds to burst forth. Wednesday morning, there they were. They had popped open. Ah, a sign from God? I think so. I think so. I'm going to have Al move this over. I got to show you a picture of my wonderful park. And now I'm going to have Al move this over because I'm going to share with you some reflections on each of the scriptures. I didn't read the scriptures, but I found them all pointing me toward the glory of God. So, Exodus 20, 1 through 17 is the giving of the law of Moses. And the law was meant to free people up. It was given to help us keep our sense of right relationship with God and ourselves and each other. The song is a song of celebration of God. And in the song of celebration, they point to the sky, and the sun is bringing them in right relationship with God, along with the law that is sweeter than the honeycomb. 2 Corinthians is a letter that Paul wrote to the people in Corinth, and in this portion it talks about the wisdom of God being foolish, and that we It's only by God's grace that we are who we are and are where we are. And so the human wisdom is all foolishness, and God's wisdom is beyond our comprehension and seems often foolish, but in fact is wiser than we can imagine. And finally we get to this text about Jesus emptying out the temple. Now, it is a story of Jesus showing his temper, but his temper is about the fact that the temple has failed to live up to his expectations, failed to live up to what he believed God's needs and wants and desires of it. It's not just about making those sacrifices. This place is to be a holy place. It is to bring people closer to God, and their failure to do that, their focus upon buying and selling and sacrifice has taken away from an awe and wonder of God's amazing presence and power in their lives. That's why it's so angry. Oddly enough, today's lesson in disciplines from Bill Dockery ends in much the same place. And this I read for you as well. I recovered from my trip to the maze and drove back to an ordinary world where we could lose ourselves in school and work, routine and daily activities. Yet, I find I'm still traveling through a maze. Confusing passageways don't take me where I want to go. I follow dead ends that frustrate me and threaten me with despair. Sometimes it feels I'm moving in a circle, revisiting places I thought I'd left in the past. But after my maze experience, I don't feel so lost. I learned how valuable the rules of the road are, those scriptural commandments, Moses 10, Jesus 2, that help me navigate the rough passages with God and other humans. Like the psalmist, I celebrate both the law and the wordless wisdom of God's creation. Like the disciples, watching Jesus in the temple, I marvel at the nonsense I witnessed, but I learn to wait on the holiness that may be revealed when I don't reject it in advance by expecting a different answer. Like Paul, I have realized that I'm touched by God's wisdom, not only through words and discussion, but also through the revelation of grace, that amazing, unearned blessing that doesn't make sense to anyone but God. From time to time, I think back to those moments on the farm and remember the wonder that experience sparked in me. I can still see the fingernail moon, that jewel of a planet, and the incredible translucence of the fading light. I gaze toward the heavens every time I can on the off chance that once more the holy will grab me by the collar and send me spinning into sacred space. When was the last time you experienced the wonder of God's grace